"We're better as friends," she said when I proposed after 3 years together, so I moved cities, got promoted, and started fresh. Now she's single at 35 watching my engagement photos while I'm with someone who sees my worth. Hey folks, before we jump into the video, please consider subscribing and giving a thumbs up if you're excited for more stories like this. Thank you. Let's dive in. The ring had been burning a hole in my sock drawer for 2 months, and I was finally ready to ask Chloe the question that would change everything. 3 years together in Nashville felt like the perfect foundation for forever, and I couldn't wait to make it official. The ring had been sitting in my sock drawer for 2 months, a custom-designed piece from a local jeweler who'd listened patiently as I described exactly what Chloe would love. I'd reserved our table at Skyline, the rooftop restaurant where we'd had our first real date, and I'd spent weeks mentally rehearsing what I wanted to say about our future together. The proposal was supposed to be perfect, just like everything else I planned for us. I'd even timed it for sunset, knowing how Chloe loved taking photos with that golden light hitting her face just right. When the moment came, I got down on one knee right there between the string lights and the city view, holding up a ring that represented months of careful saving and consideration. "Chloe, you've made these 3 years the best of my life. I love how we balance each other out, how you bring spontaneity to my careful planning, and how I help ground your big dreams. I want to spend forever building something amazing together." She stared at the ring like I just presented her with a live snake. Her face went through shock, panic, and something that looked almost like grief before she finally spoke. "Benjamin, we need to talk about this." The words that followed felt like watching a carefully constructed building collapse in slow motion. "I love you, I do, but I'm not ready for this. Marriage feels so permanent, so final. We're so young and I feel like we're better as friends. We have such an incredible friendship, and I don't want to risk ruining that by forcing something romantic that might not work out." I stayed on one knee for longer than I should have, processing what she was saying. 3 years together, and apparently, we were just friends who happened to sleep together. "I think our friendship is too valuable to risk on something as unpredictable as marriage," she continued, reaching across the table like she wanted to comfort me. "Can't we just keep things the way they are? Why do we need to change anything?" I closed the ring box and stood up, my knees creaking slightly from staying in position too long. "If that's how you feel, then okay." The waiter approached hesitantly, clearly having witnessed the whole thing. I handed him my credit card without looking at the bill, paid for the dinner she'd barely touched, and drove her home in complete silence while she stared out the window. That night, I lay awake thinking about how confidently I'd planned our entire future, only to discover she'd never wanted one with me at all. By Monday morning, I was updating my resume and researching marketing positions in Chicago. We met at Grind Coffee the following Thursday, the same place we'd spent countless Sunday mornings reading different sections of the newspaper and sharing pastries. I arrived first, ordered my usual black coffee, and sat at our regular table by the window. When Chloe walked in, she looked nervous in a way I'd never seen before, like she was preparing for a job interview she wasn't qualified for. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, settling into her chair with that same herbal tea she always ordered. "I know things got weird the other night, but I really want us to work through this as friends." I nodded, waiting for her to explain how exactly that was supposed to work. "I've been thinking a lot about what I said, and I stand by it. Marriage would change everything between us, and not necessarily for the better. But that doesn't mean we can't stay close. We have so much history together, Benjamin. I don't want to lose that." She was talking like our relationship had been some kind of business partnership she was restructuring rather than 3 years of building a life together. I watched her fidget with her cup, clearly expecting some kind of response that would make this easier for her. "I've actually started seeing someone," she continued, and there was something almost defiant in her voice. "Blake, from my yoga studio. He's a personal trainer, really laid back and uncomplicated. It's refreshing, honestly. No pressure about the future or where things are heading. Just living in the moment, you know? Living in the moment. Code for someone who didn't expect commitment or planning beyond their next workout session." "That's nice," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. "I'm happy you found what you're looking for." Her eyebrows scrunched together like she was trying to solve a complex equation. "So, we're good then? We can stay friends and keep hanging out like we always have." That's when I dropped the news that would shatter her comfortable little plan. "Actually, I won't be around much longer. I'm taking a promotion in Chicago. Moving in 2 weeks." The color drained from her face completely. "What? When did this happen?" "Applied Monday. They called yesterday with an offer." The timeline wasn't entirely accurate, but close enough. Chicago? Benjamin, that's 8 hours away. Why would you just make a decision like that without talking to me? The irony of her asking about major life decisions was almost funny. Figured there wasn't much left to talk about. You made it pretty clear where we stand. She set her cup down hard enough that tea sloshed onto the table. But we're friends. Friends discuss these things. Friends don't just disappear across the country without warning. Friends also don't reject marriage proposals and start dating other people within the same week. Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to find words that would somehow make this all work out in her favor. This isn't fair. You're punishing me for being honest about what I need. I'm not punishing anyone. I'm just not sticking around to watch you live in the moment with Blake while expecting me to wait on the sidelines as your backup plan. That's not what this is, she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Then what is it, Chloe? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you want to keep me emotionally available while you explore other options. She started crying then, quiet tears that used to move me but now just felt like another manipulation tactic. Will you at least promise we'll stay in touch? Regular calls, visits when you're back in town? I finished my coffee and stood up. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Because friends don't usually have engagement rings hidden in their sock drawers for 2 months. Walking away from that coffee shop, I realized Chloe had never considered that her actions might have consequences for anyone other than herself. Chicago was exactly what I needed. The promotion to senior marketing director came with a 35% salary bump and the chance to lead campaigns for Fortune 500 clients, the kind of work I'd been preparing for since college. My new apartment in Lincoln Park was a complete upgrade from my Nashville place, with floor-to-ceiling windows and enough space for a proper home office. For the first time in years, I was making decisions based solely on what I wanted, not what we needed as a couple. I bought new clothes, joined a gym, and started saying yes to social invitations from colleagues. The freedom to live entirely for myself was intoxicating after years of coordinating every decision with someone who ultimately didn't want a shared future anyway. Chloe's first text came 3 weeks after I'd settled in. Hey stranger, how's Chicago treating you? I waited 2 days to respond with good. That apparently opened the floodgates. Over the next month, she sent paragraphs about Blake's behavior, how he was always checking out other women at the gym, how he forgot her birthday, how he never wanted to do anything beyond working out and watching sports. I think he might be seeing someone else, she wrote at 2 a.m. one Tuesday. Found messages on his phone from some girl named Brittany. You were right about complicated guys being better in the long run. I responded with, sorry to hear that. Her messages became more frequent and increasingly desperate for the emotional support she'd grown accustomed to receiving from me. She'd send screenshots of Blake's suspicious behavior, long voice messages about her insecurities, and direct questions asking for advice about whether she should confront him or just let it go. I responded to maybe 1 in every 5 messages, usually with single words. Yeah, tough, complicated. She started calling during my work hours, probably knowing I'd be available to talk through whatever crisis Blake had created that day. I let every call go to voicemail and deleted them without listening. If she wanted uncomplicated, she could handle her problems without dragging me into them. The real turning point came when I joined a hiking group through my new gym. Every Saturday morning, we'd drive out to different trails around Illinois and Wisconsin, and that's where I met Harper. She was a veterinarian who'd moved to Chicago for a residency program and had the same love of outdoor adventure that I'd never gotten to explore with Chloe. Harper was different in every way that mattered. She paid for her own coffee after our hikes, remembered details about my work projects, and actually asked thoughtful questions about my goals instead of just waiting for her turn to talk. When I mentioned I'd never been rock climbing, she offered to teach me. When she found out I enjoyed cooking, she suggested we take a class together. Everything felt natural and equal, like we were both choosing to be there instead of one person carrying the entire relationship. Your ex really did a number on you, Harper observed one evening as we walked through Millennium Park after dinner at a place she'd chosen and insisted on splitting the bill for. You keep acting surprised when I show basic consideration. She was absolutely right. I'd gotten so used to being the only one who planned, paid, or put in effort that equality felt foreign. Good relationships shouldn't feel like work, Harper continued. They should feel like teamwork. 3 months into whatever we were building together, Chloe sent her most desperate message yet. Benjamin, I really need to talk to you. Blake and I broke up and I'm having the worst week at work. My boss is being impossible and I just need someone who actually cares about me to remind me that I'm not crazy. Can you please just call me back? I know you're busy with your new life, but I really need my friend right now. I screenshot the message and showed it to Harper over breakfast. That's manipulative, she said without hesitation. She's using emotional crisis to try to re-establish her hold on you. You think so? I know so. She rejected your commitment, started dating someone else immediately, then expects you to remain available for emotional labor whenever her choices don't work out. That's not friendship, Benjamin. That's using someone. Harper had this way of seeing through people's motivations that I found incredibly attractive. No games, no hidden agendas, just honest communication and genuine care. I deleted Chloe's message without responding and took Harper rock climbing for the first time. Watching her figure out the routes with determination and celebrate my small victories made me realize what being with someone who actually wanted to be there felt like. That evening, my phone buzzed with another message from Chloe. I saw you didn't respond. I get it, you're mad. But I'm really struggling here and I thought you of all people would understand. I turned off my phone and spent the rest of the night planning a weekend trip to Wisconsin with Harper, someone who enhanced my life instead of draining it. 6 months in Chicago, and my career was thriving in ways I'd never imagined possible. The marketing campaigns I'd developed for 3 major clients had exceeded their ROI projections by 40%, and suddenly everyone in the Chicago marketing scene knew my name. I was getting headhunted by agencies I'd only dreamed of working for back in Nashville, and my boss had already mentioned fast-tracking me for director-level responsibilities. The confidence that came from genuine professional success was addictive, especially after years of feeling like I was never quite good enough for Chloe's standards. Harper and I had settled into something that felt effortless and real. She'd show up to our dates with thoughtful questions about my latest campaign, genuinely interested in the strategy behind targeting demographics and measuring engagement metrics. When I landed the Johnson account, a $1 million automotive campaign that had been my white whale for months, she insisted on taking me out to celebrate at this steakhouse she'd been saving up to try. You earned this, she said, raising her glass of wine. I love watching you succeed at something you're passionate about. The contrast with my old relationship was striking. Chloe had always treated my work like background noise, something that happened to generate the money she needed for her lifestyle. Harper saw it as part of who I was, worth understanding and celebrating. When she talked about her veterinary cases, I found myself equally invested in her success, asking follow-up questions about treatments and celebrating when she saved a particularly challenging patient. We were building something together instead of one person carrying the other. Meanwhile, through mutual friends back in Nashville, I heard Chloe's life was unraveling spectacularly. Blake had dumped her for a 22-year-old Pilates instructor after 3 months of what she'd called uncomplicated fun. Turns out, uncomplicated meant he felt no obligation to stick around when someone younger and more flexible came along. Her job situation was equally devastating. The promotion she'd been expecting went to someone who'd actually put in the effort to develop new client relationships instead of coasting on charm and Instagram photos. Her social life had collapsed too, and she was finally learning that most of our Nashville friend group had been my friends first who'd tolerated her because she was with me. Lisa, my old college buddy, mentioned during a phone call that Chloe had been asking about me constantly. She keeps bringing you up at gatherings, asking if anyone's heard from you, wanting to know about your new job. It's getting awkward because she acts like she's entitled to updates about your life. That weekend, Harper and I went to a Cubs game, her treat since she'd gotten tickets through her clinic's corporate package. As we walked through Wrigleyville afterward, my phone buzzed with a LinkedIn notification. Chloe had viewed my profile. Then another notification 5 minutes later. She'd viewed it again. Someone's cyberstalking you, Harper observed, glancing at my phone. Want to talk about it? I explained the situation, and Harper just shook her head with amusement. She had her chance to be part of your success story and chose someone else instead. Now she's watching from the outside while you build the life she could have shared. That night, Chloe viewed my LinkedIn profile 12 more times. Then she found my company's website and looked at the press release about my promotion. By Sunday, she was scrolling through every social media platform I was active on, liking old photos from months ago and probably analyzing every detail of my new life for signs that I missed her. The desperation was obvious and honestly kind of sad. I feel bad that she's having a hard time, but I don't feel responsible for her choices anymore. The first coincidental encounter happened during my business trip back to Nashville in November. I was staying at the Omni downtown for client meetings, and somehow Chloe just happened to be at the hotel bar when I walked in after a long day of presentations. She was sitting alone, nursing a martini and wearing the black dress she knew was my favorite, positioned perfectly so I'd have to walk past her to reach the elevator. Benjamin? Oh my God, what are the odds? She stood up like she was genuinely surprised, but the carefully applied makeup and strategic seating told a different story. I was just having drinks with a client and I thought I recognized you from across the room. I stopped being polite, but distant. Hey Chloe. Business trip. How long are you in town? We should catch up properly. I have so much to tell you about everything that's happened since you left. The way she said it made it sound like I'd abandoned her instead of simply moving away after she'd rejected my proposal. Pretty packed schedule, I said, not committing to anything. But things with Blake didn't work out, if you're wondering. You were right about complicated guys being more substantial in the long run. There was the admission that her choice hadn't worked out and the subtle suggestion that maybe she'd made a mistake. Sorry to hear that, I said, meaning it about as much as you'd mean it when someone tells you their vacation got rained out. She moved closer, close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd been wearing the night I proposed. I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about what I said that night at Skyline. I think maybe I was just scared of how serious things were getting. Cold feet, you know? Cold feet that had lasted 3 years until someone else came along. Sometimes when something feels too good to be true, you panic and push it away, she continued. But I realize now that what we had was real. What we had was really special, Benjamin. I glanced at my watch. I should get going. Early meeting tomorrow. Wait, can we have dinner tomorrow night? Just as friends, catch up properly? I'm flying back to Chicago tomorrow afternoon. The disappointment on her face was obvious, but I wasn't about to rearrange my schedule for someone who'd made it clear I wasn't her priority. 6 weeks later, I was back in Nashville for our company's annual networking event at the Country Music Hall of Fame. It was a big deal, industry professionals from across the Southeast, potential clients worth millions in future business. I was focused on making connections and representing my firm professionally when I spotted Chloe near the catering table. She wasn't supposed to be there. The event was invitation only for marketing professionals, and luxury real estate marketing wasn't exactly the same industry. She'd clearly gotten someone to bring her as a plus one, dressed in a red cocktail dress that was more appropriate for a nightclub than a professional networking event. Benjamin, I can't believe you're here. What are the chances? She appeared at my elbow while I was talking to a potential client from Memphis, interrupting our conversation about quarterly advertising budgets with her dramatic entrance. Excuse me, I said to my client. I'll be right back. I stepped away with Chloe, keeping my voice low and professional. What are you doing here? Ashley works for one of the sponsors and brought me as her guest. Isn't this crazy that we keep running into each other? Crazy wasn't the word I'd use. Calculated was more accurate. I really think the universe is trying to tell us something, she continued, standing too close and speaking too loudly for the professional setting. Don't you feel like all these coincidences mean something? I think they mean you're trying very hard to run into me. Her smile faltered slightly. That's not fair. I can't help it if Nashville is a small town and we have mutual friends. Chloe, I'm here for work. This isn't the time or place for whatever this is. 5 minutes. Just give me 5 minutes to explain what I should have said months ago. Against my better judgment, I led her to a quieter corner of the venue. She immediately launched into what sounded like a rehearsed speech about realizing she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, how Blake had been exactly as shallow as I'd predicted, how she'd been too immature to appreciate what we had when we had it. I know I hurt you, she said, tears forming in her eyes. But people grow, people learn from their mistakes. I'm not the same person who got scared and ran away from commitment. That's good, Chloe. I hope that serves you well with the next person. The next person? Benjamin, I'm talking about us. About giving us another chance now that I know what I actually want. And what's that? The life we were building together. The stability, the planning, the way you made me feel safe and cherished. I was an idiot to think I needed something else. I looked at her standing there in her inappropriate dress, in a professional event she'd crashed just to corner me, and felt absolutely nothing. I'm seeing someone in Chicago. Her face went white. Seriously? Very seriously. Harper's a veterinarian, incredibly smart, shares my interests, and actually wants the same things I do. How long? For months. I watched her do the math, realizing I'd moved on while she was still playing games with Blake. 4 months isn't that long. People rebound after breakups, but what we had was 3 years. That has to count for something. It does count. It taught me what I don't want in a relationship. The words hit her like a physical blow. She opened her mouth to respond, but my client from Memphis appeared at my shoulder. Benjamin, sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to continue our conversation about the Q2 campaign. Of course, I said, relieved for the interruption. Chloe, it was good seeing you. As I walked away, I heard her call after me. This isn't over, Benjamin. What we had doesn't just disappear. But it already had. The final Nashville encounter came 2 months later when Harper joined me for a client presentation trip. I'd mentioned the Chloe situation to her, and she'd laughed it off with the confidence of someone who knew exactly where she stood. If she wants to make things awkward, that's her choice. I'm not worried about someone who gave up the best thing that ever happened to her. We were having dinner at the Continental, the same upscale restaurant where Chloe and I used to go for special occasions, when she appeared at our table like a bad penny. Benjamin, I thought that was you. She was thinner than I'd ever seen her, with dark circles under her eyes that no amount of makeup could hide. Her smile was brittle as she looked between Harper and me. And this must be the famous Harper. I'm Chloe. Nice to meet you, Harper said warmly, extending her hand with genuine friendliness that made Chloe's hostility look petty by comparison. I've heard about you. I'm sure he has, Chloe said, her voice tight. We have quite a history together. So I understand, Harper replied calmly. It sounds like you two shared some good times before Benjamin moved to Chicago. The gracious way Harper handled the obvious attempt at territorial marking was impressive. She wasn't threatened, wasn't catty, just politely acknowledged Chloe's existence while maintaining her own dignity. How's Nashville treating you? Harper asked, making conversation like a normal person. It's been challenging lately, Chloe admitted, her voice cracking slightly. I actually left my job last week. Sometimes you have to make big changes to figure out what you really want. She'd quit her job. Without another one lined up, no doubt hoping I'd swoop in to rescue her financially like I used to do. The desperation was becoming obvious to everyone around her. That's brave, Harper said, though we both knew it was more reckless than brave. As Chloe lingered at our table clearly hoping for an invitation to join us, I signaled for the check. We should let you get back to your evening, I said politely but firmly. It was good seeing you. Walking back to the hotel, Harper squeezed my hand. She's really struggling, isn't she? That's what happens when you burn bridges and expect everyone else to build them back for you. Do you feel bad for her? I considered the question honestly. I feel bad that she's having a hard time, but I don't feel responsible for her choices anymore. The promotion party was supposed to be a celebration. After landing the Morrison account, the biggest client acquisition in our firm's history, my boss had insisted on throwing a proper event at the Peninsula Hotel. Chicago's marketing elite were there, along with my colleagues, a few clients, and Harper, who looked absolutely stunning in the navy dress she'd bought specifically for the occasion. I was talking to potential investors about expanding our West Coast operations when the front desk called my phone. Mr. Chin, there's a young woman here claiming to be your guest, but she's not on our list. Should we send her up? My stomach dropped. What's her name? Chloe Matthews. She says you're expecting her. I excused myself from my conversation and went down to the lobby, where I found Chloe looking completely out of place among the business professionals. She was wearing the same red dress from the networking event, but it looked different now, desperate rather than confident. Her makeup was heavier than usual, trying to hide the exhaustion that had become her permanent expression. Benjamin, thank God. I wasn't sure they'd let me up. Chloe, what are you doing here? How did you even know about this event? I saw your LinkedIn post about the promotion. I flew in this morning because I had to see you, had to talk to you properly without interruptions or time limits. She'd flown to Chicago uninvited to crash my work event. The level of boundary violation was staggering, even for someone who'd never respected limits. This isn't appropriate. This is a professional function. 5 minutes. Please. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging you for 5 minutes of your time. Against every instinct screaming at me to have security remove her, I led her to a quiet corner of the lobby. I made the biggest mistake of my life, she started immediately, words tumbling out like she'd been rehearsing them for weeks. Rejecting your proposal, dating Blake, letting you move away without fighting for us. I was scared and immature and I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me. I watched her carefully, looking for any sign of genuine change, but all I saw was the same self-centered desperation she'd always shown when things didn't go her way. Benjamin, I love you. I've always loved you. I was just too stupid and scared to realize it until you were gone. Chloe, even if that were true, I'm with Harper now. But you loved me first. We have history, 3 years of building something together. She's just a rebound, someone to help you get over me. The delusion was breathtaking. She's not a rebound. I'm planning to propose to her next month. The words came out before I'd consciously decided to share them, but as soon as I said it, I knew it was true. Harper was everything I'd wanted in a partner, and I wasn't going to let Chloe's dramatic timing interfere with my future. Chloe's face crumbled completely. Next month? Benjamin, please don't make a decision you'll regret just because you're angry with me. I'm not angry anymore. I'm grateful. You taught me exactly what I don't want in a relationship. That's when she really lost it. You can't marry her. She doesn't know you like I do. She doesn't understand your ambitions, your plans, your dreams for the future. She understands them better than you ever did. She's using you just like you think I was. Career women like her always have ulterior motives. The irony of Chloe, who'd literally called me her financial safety net, accusing Harper of having ulterior motives was almost funny. I need to get back to my party. Benjamin, I quit my job because I realized nothing matters without you. I'm ready to move to Chicago, start over, be the partner you need me to be. She'd quit her job as a grand gesture, expecting me to be impressed by her willingness to sacrifice for our relationship. The same woman who'd refused to split dinner bills was now offering to relocate her entire life. That's not my decision to make anymore. I started walking toward the elevator, but she followed, her voice getting louder and more desperate. She's going to leave you too, you know. Career women always choose their jobs over relationships when things get tough. Harper appeared beside me then, having noticed my extended absence from the party. Everything okay down here? Harper, this is Chloe. Chloe, Harper. Oh, Harper said, understanding immediately. Nice to finally meet you properly. Don't do this, Chloe said, looking directly at Harper. He's going to get bored with you just like he got bored with me. Benjamin always needs something to fix, someone to save. Once you don't need him anymore, he'll find someone who does. The projection was stunning. She was describing her own pattern of behavior and attributing it to me. Actually, Harper said calmly, Benjamin's never tried to fix or save me. That's one of the things I love about him. He treats me like an equal partner, not a project. Ma'am, a security guard had materialized beside us. I'm going to need to ask you to leave. You're disturbing our guests. This is ridiculous, Chloe said, but she was already backing toward the exit. Benjamin, you're making a huge mistake. When this doesn't work out, don't expect me to be waiting around. As security escorted her out, Harper turned to me with raised eyebrows. Well, that was dramatic. Sorry you had to witness that. Don't apologize. It actually made me feel even better about us. Seeing what you walked away from makes me appreciate what we have even more. Back at the party, word had already spread about the lobby incident. Instead of being embarrassed, I found my colleagues were impressed by how professionally I'd handled what could have been a career-damaging scene. Handled that like a boss, my boss said, patting me on the shoulder. Shows real character when someone tries to create drama and you keep your composure. That night, Harper and I talked about the ring I'd been secretly shopping for, and she mentioned how excited she was about our future together. Meanwhile, Chloe was probably on a plane back to Nashville, finally understanding that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. A year after moving to Chicago, I proposed to Harper on the summit of Starved Rock during our anniversary hiking trip. No fancy restaurant, no elaborate planning, just the two of us at sunrise with the Illinois River Valley spread out below us like a promise of everything good ahead. Harper, you've shown me what it feels like to be chosen every single day. Will you marry me? Yes, she said immediately, no hesitation, no panic, no speeches about friendship being safer than love. Absolutely yes. The ring fit perfectly, and she cried happy tears while we took selfies with the sunrise. Later that day, she posted our engagement photo with a simple caption about being excited to marry her best friend and adventure partner. Within hours, our Nashville mutual friends were commenting and sharing the news. By evening, it had made its way through social media circles back home, and I could practically feel the shockwaves reaching Chloe through the digital grapevine. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Benjamin, I saw the news about your engagement. I wanted to reach out and say congratulations. I'm genuinely happy for you and I hope Harper knows how lucky she is. I've done a lot of growing over this past year and I understand now why things ended the way they did between us. I'm in a much better place mentally and emotionally, and I've learned to appreciate the things that really matter in relationships. I hope we can both move forward with no hard feelings and that maybe someday we can be friends again when enough time has passed. You deserve all the happiness in the world. I read the first few lines, recognized the familiar pattern of manipulation disguised as personal growth, and blocked the number without finishing the message. There was nothing Chloe could say that would change anything, and I had no interest in providing her with closure she hadn't earned. Harper and I spent the next few months planning our wedding, a small ceremony in Michigan near the lake where Harper had grown up. Simple, meaningful, focused on celebrating our commitment rather than impressing people who didn't matter. We registered for practical gifts, split the costs equally, and made decisions together like actual partners do. Meanwhile, through the Nashville grapevine, I heard updates I didn't ask for but found grimly satisfying. Chloe was living with 2 roommates in a cramped apartment, working retail to pay bills, and cycling through dating apps without success. Her Instagram had become a collection of bitter inspirational quotes about men who give up too easily and women who know their worth, posted between selfies that screamed desperate for attention. She keeps posting these quotes about second chances and fighting for love, Lisa mentioned during a phone call. Everyone knows she's talking about you. Everyone except me, I replied, because I'd blocked her on every platform months ago. The wedding was perfect. Harper looked radiant, our families got along beautifully, and I felt the deep satisfaction that comes from building something real with someone who actually wants to be there. During our first dance, Harper whispered, "Thank you for waiting for the right person instead of settling for someone who didn't appreciate you." I spun her under the string lights we'd hung ourselves and realized that Chloe rejecting my proposal was the best thing that had ever happened to me. She'd taught me the difference between someone who loves you and someone who keeps you around until something better comes along. As Harper and I cut our cakes surrounded by people who genuinely cared about our happiness, I thought about how different this moment was from that disaster at Skyline. This time, I was marrying someone who'd said yes immediately, someone who saw our future as an adventure to embrace rather than a trap to escape. Somewhere back in Nashville, Chloe was probably posting another quote about men who don't fight hard enough for love, not realizing that the right person never makes you fight for basic respect and commitment. They just say yes.